Hey writers, it's Megan Barnhart here of Write with Megan, and today I'm going to be talking about 5 mistakes that even smart writers make when it comes to getting feedback on their writing. So join us, come say hello if you are here watching live or if you're watching the replay on YouTube or on the Write with Megan Facebook page. Please do still say hello. I always come back and I love to hear your comments and answer your questions. So let me know you're here. Hello, Lloyd. Nice to see you. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this topic because getting feedback on your writing is a hugely important part of growing your writing craft. Whether you're an author or you're somebody working on writing just because you love it and enjoy it and you don't have a commercial purpose, or even if you are an entrepreneur and business owner and you write for your business, if you're not getting feedback about how your writing is coming across, you're really missing out on opportunities. So this is a really juicy topic and I think a hard one for us to, I think it's hard for us to get good feedback. So I'm going to be sharing the 5 mistakes that make it hard to get good feedback, and you'll get a chance to see how you can get better feedback. All right, so I've been yakking on and I haven't even shared us in the Write with Megan Facebook group. So I'm going to go and do that. Come join us if you're not there already. The Write with Megan Facebook group is a place for writers, would-be writers, hobbyists, professionals, and everybody in between to hang out, share writing, get inspired, and get some accountability. So if you've been looking for, in this new year, if you've been looking for a way to take your writing more seriously, or get some serious momentum going, this is a good place to do it. All right, let's dive in with the 5 mistakes. Hello, Lori. Hello, Rachel. Hello, Marina. Awesome. Hello, Wayne. How's everybody doing today? Give me an emoji. What's your day like? I've been having like so much fun doing a lot of creating today, creative creating. So I've been enjoying that. All right, let's get into the 5 mistakes that make it really hard to get good feedback on your writing. And these are mistakes that even very good writers and very smart people make. So if you see yourself in these mistakes, please don't feel bad. Just take this as a time to go like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. No wonder I wasn't getting feedback that was helpful. All right. So the first mistake is asking for feedback at the wrong time. This might mean that your writing still feels tender and you aren't ready to hear how somebody else is reacting to it yet. And that is totally okay. You get to decide when is the right time to share your writing. I'm curious. Let me know with an emoji. Raise your hand. Has anybody ever shared writing for feedback and then regretted it because you realized it was still like too tender? You still felt like that was my baby and I didn't want anybody to give me feedback on it yet. Maybe it really hurt whatever feedback you got and you realized, man, I shared too early. Okay, so that can be the wrong time. But the wrong time might also be because, okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up. I've done that. I've been like, oh, I'm really happy. I wrote this, I'll share it. And then go like, oh, I didn't want to know somebody's opinion yet. That hurt too much. But another wrong time might be when our ideas are not fully formed enough. And so when we share our writing and ask for feedback, the other person's like, are you trying to say you liked the circus when you were a kid? And you're like, no, this is a story about how I'm, deeply emotionally troubled by clowns. Like, oh, sorry, I didn't get that. It didn't come across. So this is a place where, again, you have to decide, do I feel like I have gotten out all of the ideas that I wanted? It's easy to get excited and you get the first part down. You're like, I'm going to share them to get some feedback. But keep in mind that somebody else might not be able to tell what the whole shape of your idea is. Now, I'm not suggesting you have to wait until it's perfectly polished before you share, but think about getting all of the pieces down so somebody can, again, see the shape of your story. It's not going to be fully colored in. It's not going to be beautifully polished, but it'll be, roughly sketched out. So they're like, oh yeah, I can see where you're going with this. All right, so that is mistake number 1, wrong time. Hello, Anne. All right. Yes, clowns are deeply troubling. I think we can all agree on that. Okay, the second mistake that even smart writers make when getting feedback on their writing is choosing the wrong people. And I will define that because some of you might be like, oh, yeah, I don't want to choose the wrong people. Like, I want to find writing experts. Somebody's expertise in writing is not what makes that person the right or wrong person for you to get feedback from. What makes somebody the wrong person is that they don't listen to you when you ask for a certain type of feedback, or you ask them, hey, I'm only interested in hearing about the story shape right now. I know there are typos. Like, please don't tell me about that, right? The wrong person is somebody who won't listen to you. um and maybe the wrong person is also somebody who's not part of like your intended audience, and this can be a big frustration for writers. I have this myself when I write for my business. Sometimes I get overly excited and I share with people in my life, like, oh, I'm really excited about this blog post I wrote or a newsletter I wrote. I get excited and I'll share with my husband, and he'll come back and say, that doesn't make any sense. And what are all those words? I'm like, oh, yeah, you're not the right person because you're not my audience. You're not somebody who's already thinking about these things, right? So he's the wrong person because he's not whom I'm trying to reach. And it's like, it's not a good match of ideas. So does that make sense? Have you ever chosen the wrong person? Somebody either who wouldn't listen, and you're like, can you just tell me, or do you get this character's motivation? And this person's like, that is not how you use a semicolon, right? I don't care. Or, you've shared with somebody and they're like, why are there all of these spaceships? This is a bad story. How come there's not more kissing? And you're like, oh, you don't read science fiction, do you? Right? So there are a lot of ways to define the wrong person, and finding the right person for you is somebody who will just listen to what you ask for and who's also kind of in the right area, your audience, somebody who can be expected to connect or get what you're writing. Oh, awesome. Wayne is saying, Anne and Anthony are my writing buddies, both fantasy writers. It's so powerful to find some writing buddies. That's another reason you should come over and join the Write with Megan Facebook group. Just search for groups on Facebook, Write with Megan, and find some writing buddies. Get some people who get you and what you're trying to do. Oh, and that's awesome that your hubby is a good feedback person for you. Mine is not so much for me. And that's okay. It's not because he doesn't support my writing or care about my writing. It's just because that's not what he's thinking about, right? So my words are completely missing him. Ooh. Okay, Rachel is saying she has a friend who has edited for her before, and she loves that friend, but the friend's more geared toward fantasy, and so there can be a mismatch. Yeah, there can be some disconnects. And I'm talking about getting feedback in a casual way, but when it comes to hiring a professional editor, absolutely, you need to make sure there's a good matchup with what that person is skilled in editing and what you write. Otherwise, that can be really frustrating, and ultimately it won't be productive. Okie doke. So first mistake was the wrong time. Second mistake was asking the wrong people. The third mistake is asking the wrong questions, or maybe not asking questions at all. I gave the example of you want to know if your characters are clear and somebody is correcting your grammar, but you might have a really thoughtful reader who's not just hell-bent on teaching you about semicolons, but who's still really needing direction when it comes to what you want to hear about. So maybe you've shared 5 chapters of a story because you want to give somebody enough context, right? We talked about number 1 is the wrong time. Like, you don't want to give somebody too little, like share too early when there isn't enough for that person to see the bigger picture. So maybe you've shared 5 chapters to give that context, but really your question is around only one of those chapters. You want to know, like, given how this character is acted in these 5 chapters, does that one scene in chapter 5 make sense or ring true, right? So you've got this very specific question. If you are not making that clear to your reader, you're not going to get the kind of feedback you want, because we'll all respond based on what stands out to us. So maybe your reader will give you feedback like, I'm confused about the setting. Now, that could be important, but you might not be ready for that feedback right now, right? So you want to make sure you're asking the right questions, and asking questions at all. So this is might be for some of you if you're like, ooh, I was sharing my writing and not asking questions at all. This is the first thing you can address. Pick one thing. What do you want to know? And there's no right answer. You, as the writer, get to decide, like, what's one thing I want to know about this? Like, if I'm writing a newsletter and I want to share with a business buddy, maybe the one thing I want to know is, what do you think about the length? Right? Just one clear thing. And somebody might go, oh, it's too long, it's too short, or oh, yeah, I would read something like this. Pick one question and start with that. This is a good, an important point too. When you ask that question, really think about not making it a leading question. So I just gave an example about length. And if I want to know genuinely whether the length is good, I want to ask in that way. Hey, what do you think about the length of this? Okay. Because if I say, is this too short or is this really too long? What I'm doing is planting a seed. And we are all very susceptible to suggestions, right? And so it's easy for you to plant a seed and make somebody have a reaction that wouldn't have been there otherwise. So ask the right questions, ask questions at all, and try to make them open-ended and not leading. Okay. So wrong time, wrong people, wrong questions. The fourth mistake that even smart people and even experienced writers make is not having some kind of system in place for acting on the feedback they get. So that means you ask, you've taken the time, you've like made sure it's the right time to share, you've found the right people, you've asked them the right questions. Then you start getting some feedback and you go, oh crap, what do I do with this? I don't know. And maybe that means you do nothing, or maybe it means you start deleting and rewriting everything you have so far. Neither of those is really helpful. So it's really key that you have in place some system for taking in feedback. If you are not sure what that looks like, go with your gut. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I personally like to make spreadsheets, make tables, and keep track of what people have said, and then, gauge what I want to do with it, or react to it. And I take it in stages, because there's going to be a little bit of, it's hard to get feedback. So I'm not going to decide whether I want to use feedback as soon as I get. I'm going to read it, I'm going to digest it, I'm going to sit with it for a while. Does anybody have a system that you love for taking feedback that people have given you and turning it into action? If so, go ahead and put it in the comments. This is something where I actually have a whole system. It's a system that I use not only for getting feedback from readers, but actually for revising generally. And it's not rocket science. It's just a systematic way of going through a process that can be kind of emotional and kind of tough, because it's changing our writing, and making it very systematic, making it really separated from ego, and making it technical. Like, oh, this is just part of the writing process. If you'd like more info on that, whether you use it for revising or for getting feedback from your readers, come join me at the free webinar I'm doing next week, all about revising. You can sign up at meganbarnhart.com/revise, and I will just drop the link into the chat as well. So yeah, I'll be going into depth next week about what that system looks like. And again, this is my system. It's not the only system out there, but it's one I found really helpful for myself, and I've taken other writers through it. It just externalizes the process, so you're not dealing with the emotion plus the chaos of now what do I do when you go to take in that feedback. All right, my friends, so that leaves us at the fifth mistake. So the first one was the wrong time, the second was the wrong people, the third was the wrong questions / no questions, the fourth one was no system for acting on the feedback. Number 5 is maybe like the toughest one to admit. So I'll be the first to admit, I totally have done this. I'm sure I will do it again. Number 5, the number 5 mistake is asking for feedback for the wrong reasons. Okay, there are times in life when what we want, what we need, And what will keep us moving forward is somebody saying, good job, you can do it, you've got this, okay? There are other times where what we need to move forward is somebody very honestly and directly telling us, hey, what you're doing right here, it's not working. It's not working. Something's got to change there. And those are two different times. Those are two different needs. So raise your hand. Have you ever, like I have, asked for feedback on your writing when you didn't really want or need feedback? What you really wanted or needed was encouragement and somebody to say, like, that's awesome, you're doing it, keep going, not in relation to the quality of your writing, but just because you're doing the writing. Me, that's me. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up. I have totally done this. And I don't feel bad about doing it. It's not wrong to do this, but it's really frustrating. And it can even be like, friendship ending or writing buddy relationship ending if you are not clear on why you're trying to get feedback, right? If you just need that support, encouragement, say that. Just be totally blunt with somebody. And you don't have to find a writing buddy for this. Like, go to somebody in your life who supports you and loves you and say, I really could use like a pat on the back and a high five because here's what I just did. Like I just finished the blog post that was totally frustrating me, or I just finished the chapter of this book, or I just wrote my first 1,000 words in months and I'm feeling good. Like, can you give me a hug? Can you give me a high five? Ask for that. You deserve it. Like, there's no reason you have to be super tough, right? And like, I'll just do it alone. Ask for that, but be really, really honest with yourself, whether that's what you need or you want feedback. And you can have both. You can absolutely have both. Like, go to one of your writing buddies and say, look, I want you to help me with this chapter. I need some feedback. I feel like it's got some issues, but it was hard. Can you just start me off with like pumping me up and telling me how amazing I am? Then we'll get into the critique. Whatever, you could be mixed like that, in terms of from the same person and at the same time, but you're asking for those as different requests, right? Those are different needs. So I know that one has gotten me a lot of times. And the really big problem with that last one with, asking for the wrong reason is it might turn us off to feedback more generally. Not everybody's as sensitive as I am. I am like the most sensitive person I know. I I can barely stand any negativity in the world. But being really clear with when I'm asking for feedback and why has made me able to get fantastic feedback from other writers, from my editor, whom I love so dearly. Shout out Lloyd. It's enabled me to get feedback because I'm really clear and I make that divide and I don't ask for critical feedback if what I really want is kind, caring support. I make that distinction for myself. So it's actually opened me up to, so if you're a really sensitive person, if you're a highly sensitive person, or if you are newer to writing, or if you've had some bad experiences with people giving you harsh criticism and feedback, this could be a really powerful one for you where you're like, oh, I just have to know for myself what's behind my asking and make sure when I'm asking for feedback, it's because I want that feedback. All right, so I'm going to circle back through and look for any more questions I might have missed, and use this time. Feel free to add more questions. And let me see. Okay, and I'm seeing more people raising their hands about, yes, we've asked for feedback when we really wanted was a hug. Oh, awesome. Ruth says, I joined a writers group with a wealth of experienced writers. We meet once a week, and depending on how many are present, we read portions of our work and they write comments and make corrections. Ruth, that sounds amazing. And for anybody who's looking for that, it might be closer than you think. A lot of libraries offer, opportunities to get in touch like this. My mom found an amazing writing group in her area through her church. So don't get discouraged if you think, I don't live near a lot of other writers. Ask, because so many of us are writing, and might just not be sharing, telling the world at large. So go ahead and look for a writing group in your area, or look for one online. You can connect with people, share via Google Docs, super easy. And again, come join Write with Megan and find your writing buddies there. Oh, okay. Marina says, my mother is writing, I'm writing both fiction, but she'll correct punctuation, etc. on my rough drafts when I'm only looking for story feedback. So frustrating. I'm sorry for that, Marina. I've been there. I feel you. Yeah, so with that, you know that relationship best. So you might consider saying, "Hey, mom, I really appreciate that you're willing to give me feedback, but please keep it to just what I'm asking for. Definitely I'm going to correct all these things later, but I can only focus on one thing at a time, so I would love it if you can just stick to what I'm asking about." And if it doesn't work, or if it doesn't feel comfortable to ask that, look for another writing buddy. um okay. Oh, hello, Cecilia, good to see you. All right, if I missed your question or comment, I always circle back around after the broadcast and find the ones I missed, so I will respond to it. There's a lag, so I apologize because sometimes I just don't see your comments or questions in real time. Let's keep this conversation going. If more thoughts come to you about mistakes you've made in getting feedback or strategies you have about getting great feedback, post. If you're currently looking for writing buddies, post that. Say like, hey, I'm looking for a writing buddy. I write YA fiction or whatever it is, so that other people can connect with you. And if you're interested in like diving deeper into those questions you can ask readers and also ask yourself when it comes to revising your writing and making it better and better without getting overwhelmed and thinking I have to rewrite the whole thing, come to the free webinar next week, all about revising. It's how to revise a killer novel without killing yourself in the process. And here is the link to join that. I hope to see you there. It's going to be real casual. It'll be a Q&A, and we will dive deep on revising and how that all works. All right, thank you so much for joining me, everybody. I wish you, as always, happy writing.